Are the San Francisco 49ers interested in trading for Mac Jones or potentially even Zach Wilson? Two of the quarterbacks that went and the first five quarterbacks in the same draft in which the 49ers traded up to three and they took Trey Lance, who they've since traded away for a fourth round draft pick to the Dallas Cowboys. Well, it appears Zach Wilson and Mac Jones are on the outs with their franchise as well, which is absolutely crazy because four out of those top five quarterbacks look like they'll be on a new team next year, including Justin Fields. And the only guy who's maintaining his position with his current team is Trevor Lawrence with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Everyone else appears to be slated for a new team. Now, the reason why this is becoming a question in regards to the San Francisco 49ers is for multiple reasons. One, let's start with the current quarterback room for the Niners. Obviously, you have Brock Purdy. He's on the final year of his rookie deal before he can engage in contract negotiations. And so, as it stands, you look at the backups, and the 49ers brought in Sam Darnold, and many believe that Sam Darnold could be an attractive option for some quarterback needy teams who need a bridge guy to come in and start for potentially a year. So it does appear that Sam Darnold, he'll be out. He's going to sign somewhere else. Brandon Allen could be an option to return as well, who is the 49ers quarterback three once Trey Lance was traded away. But that means is that the 49ers still need a backup. They'll likely carry three quarterbacks, but they need another one in the room. So that is where this report from today of Ian Rappaport saying that the Patriots appear open to trading quarterback Mac Jones, and teams have been calling them and doing work on the former starter, according to sources. With a new coaching staff, a fresh start may make sense for all sides. So naturally, I do think the 49ers just naturally pop into this conversation because, and the same applies to Zach Wilson as well, who we've already heard has been granted the opportunity to seek a trade as well. And the thought process to acquiring one of these guys is that you probably don't have to spend a lot to get them. And on top of that, the 49ers become a almost like a rehabilitation center for damaged quarterbacks. Considering, the fact that if Sam Darnold can turn him being a backup in Kyle's scheme into a starting role, maybe other quarterbacks see that as a value as well. But the question is, do they go for either one of these guys? Do they go for the former number 2 overall pick or the former number 15, I believe is where Mac went to the Patriots? Do they go for either one of those guys to come in and be a backup to 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy? I think we're all pretty crystal clear that Brock is solidified as this team starter moving forward. So it's not like this is an open competition or anything like that. But I will give you my hesitations into why I prefer not to have Mac Jones or Zach Wilson, to be perfectly honest, because one of the things with Mac Jones is he honestly could be a good quarterback in this league. He could be more than serviceable. He can operate an offense and do those different types of things. I think he would fit with what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. So I think when you're trying to look at it from a pure football standpoint, yes, that could make sense. Mac Jones probably would have success with the 49ers, which is probably why there was so much smoke about the 49ers moving up to 3 to get Mac Jones, because almost everything that we've heard since then has indicated that was the original plan. The original plan was to go get Mac, and they opted to go Trey Lance at the last second, and we've seen how that's panned out. So could this be a reclamation project? Could you go get Mac Jones for a 7th round pick, 6th round pick, 5th round pick, to potentially see if, hey, maybe he signs elsewhere in the following year? You can turn him into a comp pick, maybe get a 4th third, even if he signs a lucrative deal, and you insulate your quarterback room with talent, making it as talented as a room as possible. I understand it from that perspective, but I think the perspective in which I'm having a hard time with is Mac Jones, the person. I feel like when we've heard these reports of, how him and Bailey Zappi operated together, you heard the reports that Bailey Zappi had to watch film in the wide receiver room because their relationship was just so, you know, not good effectively. Um, and of course, this is just hearsay and whatever. So we take it with a grain of salt. But the kind of the main themes of why it feels like it's not working with Mac Jones is because of the way he fits in from a personality standpoint. So, are you willing to bring in Mac Jones, although he is definitely capable of being a starting quarterback in this league, to be a backup to Brock Purdy? And are you concerned about any animosity that would be generated in that quarterback room? I think that's where I'm looking at it from. Is that the simple fact that Mac Jones is coming in to compete. He's not coming in to help Brock Purdy. He's coming in to compete. Now, unless they iron that out clearly ahead of time that you are the backup and you are to help Brock as best you can, that's a different conversation. But I just don't see it that way. I see it as Mac is wanting to win. He wants to compete, as all football players should, and and try to earn that starting role so that he can earn a starting spot elsewhere. Or if not, maybe with the San Francisco 49ers, which would be a crazy situation in my opinion. But for that simple fact, I prefer not. I prefer not to have Mac in the building. Um, I don't believe that that would be the best situation for Brock. I think it'd be probably the best situation for the 49ers from a roster building standpoint, but I want a guy in that room who's going to be a sounding board, who is going to be able to be an extra coach um, on the field, someone that Brock can rely on for support. And I'm not sure that Mac can be that. And I'm not sure Zach Wilson can be that either. Do they have a ton of upside as players still, even though they flamed out at both their current spots? Of course they do. And you can get them for relatively cheap. And, they're still on their rookie deals. So you don't have to extend them or anything like that. You get them for cheap. But I prefer a quarterback who can come in and be a big bro to Brock Purdy, not a guy that's about the same age as him, trying to compete with him. Not that competition is bad in football, but I also believe that Brock has earned it. He doesn't need to compete anymore. He competed last year with Sam Darnold. He doesn't need to compete anymore. This is his job heading into this year. Bring in someone that can be a sounding board. Bring in someone that can be a confidant, that can build Brock up even more than what Brian Greasy's doing and Kyle Shanahan's doing. Just someone that he could rely on. I don't think Mac Jones or Zach Wilson are those guys. So I get it from a talent perspective, a roster building perspective, but I'm looking at it from an emotional, intelligent perspective, and I would prefer someone that Brock can ask questions to, can trust, can understand that this guy has my best interest in mind. You've heard stories like I think the most recent one was Johnny Manziel talking about how when he was in a room with Brian Hoyer, that was the furthest thing from the case that Brian Hoyer wasn't there to help him and viewed him as a threat. And I don't want that type of competitive uh, kind of work environment. Again, I do believe competition in football is key. That's one thing. But again, if these guys are clashing, I don't want that. I want Brock to be as locked in and focused on the game and the game plan as possible than looking over his shoulder at, who's upset about not playing or something like that. So that's my take on it. I don't love the idea of Mac Jones or Zach Wilson. you can convince me on some other veterans um, that aren't those guys. Because again, I feel like they're both young, they're both immature in a certain sense of just again being where they are at their careers. You could convince me on a guy like Marcus Mariota, a Tyrod Taylor, a Gardner Minshew, even. If you really wanted to bring kind of one of those guys, I would love Joshua Dobbs in the room. Um, if you want to bring in those kind of sounding boards as veterans, to me, I feel like that makes sense. More so than Mac, more so than Wilson. But you guys let me know. Would you go for Mac? Would you go for Zach Wilson? Do you think the 49ers are actually interested in those two? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.